The political arena now open for business this day. There is plenty of meat to toss on the ground. Republican governors in trouble and on the game plan for Iraq. Lost emails, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. We kind of have it all. Let's get one side of this, if you will, please. Spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, Kirsten Kukowski, joins us today. Kirsten, thanks so much for joining us again. Pleasure to see you on a Friday.
Friday. Thanks for having me.
There you go. All right, let's get started here because a lot of America certainly wants to know about these lowest learner emails here. There's a big deal being made about it, but Americans want to know, why is this so important, and what is it about emails that are really going to tell us anything? Would you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I think the whole issue here from the very beginning was the government's competency, right? It's the fact that we have the IRS, who's in charge of the income for our country, in charge of all of our tax dollars, and there were questions about their competency and whether or not, that there were some people who were being treated fairly and some people who weren't being treated fairly by the tax code that the IRS was managing. And when now we look back and we're supposed to be having some transparency in the government and make sure that we can go back and figure out what happened. Now we're told and why now? Well, now we're told that oh wait, we actually don't have some of the emails that are going to give us a little bit of an insight into what happened with this scandal from a while back. And so I think that's why it's important. We don't know what's in those emails, but the fact remains that we're never going to know now because for whatever reason they didn't believe that it was important enough to keep those emails. And I think that part of it is how the lack of seriousness that the White House is treating this, right? We saw a couple of days ago one of the press secretaries for the White House saying, well, we all know we've all had a computer crash. I mean, give me a break. That is not how this works. That's not what's supposed to happen. And I think that we need to treat this a little more seriously than what they're doing right now.
Okay, then let's treat this seriously from the American public's perception. What is going to come out of this that will make a difference?
Well, I think that we saw a hearing, on Capitol Hill earlier this morning, asking more questions to the IRS commissioner, trying to get to the bottom of this, trying to figure out why now. Did we just find out that the emails weren't there? Is there anything we can do to get them back? How do we now get the answers to the questions that so many Americans have about what happened at the IRS? So I don't think I have the answer for you on that. I think that that's what our members up on Capitol Hill are trying to do today, and I think that we're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, too, in the future.
All right, Kevin McCarthy is now the House Majority Leader here. That was pretty much a given before we even knew this was going to happen here. But what is he going to do? I mean, that really is it, because as we talk to a lot of different people here, they will tell us that he's not going to be really in power very long whatsoever. So there are many people seeing this as sort of a placeholder with no disrespect whatsoever meant to him, but simply because of the way the political cycles work here. So what is he really going to be able to do, if anything, to change any fortunes for the party?
Well, you know what, I think that it's a little early. I do think that he was always a part of the team, right? As whip, he's always been a part of leadership, and in any meetings that I've been in, with their communicators, they've always been there, and we're going to continue, in many respects in the same way that we were for the last couple of months. So I know that leadership had a lot of plans in store for how we're going to talk about our Republican principles as we go into the 2014 midterm elections, and I think that that's what you're going to see from us over the next couple of months.
Has Eric Cantor been contacted? Has he spoken with the RNC? Is there a discussion about what he may do now and how he may still be able to help the party? Because certainly, let's face it, just because he is out of office does not mean that this is someone that the RNC would cast adrift. He certainly is very important to the RNC's future.
He was very important as a leader, and it continues to be important as a leader in our party. He helped, a lot of Republicans, be elected to office, and that was a very important part of his job. And we respect him and thank him for that. He's always going to be a part of this party, and he had a lot of ideas of how we're going to move this party forward. So we welcome those, just like everyone else. And I'm not privy to any conversations that have been had. But I imagine we are going to be seeing and hearing a lot more from Representative Cantor.
We are again hearing so much about what is going on in Iraq right now. I'm curious, as I'm sure many people are, to get what was the consensus opinion from members of the RNC and the folks moving forward to what President Obama said on Thursday about what is next in the conflict with Iraq.
Yeah, right before I joined you, the White House press briefing is actually going on right now that I was watching, and there were some questions on Iraq and what exactly the administration is going to do, and mainly the questions are, was it too little, too late? Is this going to have an impact? Should the president have acted sooner? Should we have pulled out troops when he did in the first place, knowing that there was so much instability on the ground in Iraq? So I do think there's a lot of questions that, frankly, we don't have answers to right now. I think that, from our perspective, I think that this just plays into kind of this overall concern and narrative for this White House and for this president that he doesn't have control over what's happening, overseas or even here. And I think that that's being represented in the poll numbers that we're seeing come out every other day at this point, where now foreign policy is joining the economy and other domestic issues, healthcare, in terms of where the president is really having trouble and where voters simply aren't trusting this administration and his policies. And so I think that that's going to be really difficult as we go into the midterms. If you're a Democrat running in 2014 in November, you're going to have a really, really hard time with those Obama coattails, foreign policy as well as domestically. And I think it's going to also hurt anybody running in 2016, especially if your name is Hillary Clinton.
All right, let's go ahead and welcome in now a Democratic strategist. Eric Sapp joins us via Skype. Eric, glad you could have a chance to join us here for a couple of minutes.
Well, I am very happy to be here.
We want to hit you with a couple of things Kirsten Kukowski had just said to us, and there's two things that she just noted that I think I want to get your reaction to right away, a few minutes that we have left. Yeah. The perception that after what the president said with regard to his latest actions in Iraq, the perception that he simply doesn't have control. How would you answer that?
Well, I mean, Republicans should start by giving a big apology for where we are in Iraq. I mean, everybody knows why this mess was created. We went out in there looking for weapons of mass destruction with no plan on what to do afterwards. The president focused, got the terrorists that attacked us on 9/11, got our troops out of Iraq, and it is, I mean, this Sunni and Shiite issue has been going on for a long time. We knew it was going to continue, and what we've got to do is come up with a reasonable approach. Take it simple, take it slow, do it right, and plan to make sure that U.S. interests are best represented in the region. And that's what he's been doing.
All right, now here's something else. First of all, I don't want to go back, because anytime on this program, I always tell people, let's not go back. Let's not look at the past. Let's look at how we go forward here from the future, because I think sometimes we spend way too much time going back and blaming people. So let's think about this now. Going forward, there is the criticism out there that ISIS, what has happened in Iraq and Syria, simply caught this administration off guard, and they weren't ready for it. It certainly seems that way.
What it seems, I mean, they have been tracking everything that's been going on. They've been staying on top. They've been sending diplomats over there, doing all the outreach. The fact that there isn't a simple solution, that this isn't black and white, doesn't mean the administration wasn't caught off guard. It means they've been doing the work to get the best understanding of the situation on the ground. Looking at Benghazi is kind of another perfect example of this. Republicans spent the last year and a half trying to collect talking points to indict the president, while the president and his national security team were doing the hard work to find the people responsible, understand the situation on the ground, and go and get the guy and get him out so we can bring him to justice. What we're seeing right now is the difference between the need to, and it's good to have these discussions on the news, but the 24/7 news cycles require constant updates and everyone to have talking points. National security is complicated. Doing it right's even harder. And what this president has done is put our interests first. Sometimes that means not putting the talking points first, but actually doing what's required to keep our troops safe, get the people that are truly holding America, that are a threat to America.
Okay, 30 seconds. I have to cut you there, but I want to ask one last question here. 30 seconds. Kirsten also made the point about a lot of Democrats right now not wanting to get caught in President Obama's coattails as we get towards the midterms and towards 2016.
Well, we definitely have a broken process right now in Washington. As much as some people are worried about Obama's coattails, this Republican Congress is the least popular Congress, I think, in the history of the United States. And that's a sad state for American politics. But if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you'd rather have the guy, even if it's lower, who has the higher approval ratings and who has been doing something and trying to do something.
Kirsten, you want to give a 10-second response to that, Kirsten? 10 seconds?
Well, I think that we have bigger plans than just doing something, and I think that that's kind of a sad reflection of where the Democratic Party is, and I think that's what's reflective in these polls as we head into the midterms.
All right, there we go. Eric, sorry you joined us a little bit late. We'll get you guys back together again. We'll do it all over again so we have time together. But, Eric, thank you very much. Kirsten, thank you so much. You folks have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, there it is, because certainly